Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, the expert webinar Beyond the Office Walls, How to Build a Strong Company Culture for Your Remote and Hybrid Work Teams. We'll start off in the next 3 minutes, but before that, we would love to know where you're joining in from, what's your name, and all those things. Like, is your team hybrid or remote? Please feel free to drop it in the chat box. We're looking forward to what do you do and all of it. Hey, Greg. Hello. Welcome to the webinar. Hey, Deswin. Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining in. Switch list. All right. We have everyone coming in. We'll start off in the next 1 minute. So awesome. So let's jump right in. So before we jump in, here are some house rules that we have. So please make sure your camera and microphones are turned off. And we would love to answer everyone's questions regarding the topic that we have as we go forward. Feel free to drop it in the Q&A box. And also, we will be taking in questions in between the presentation and also after the Q&A session. We would try our best to answer all the questions that come into the chat box. So looking forward. And next, we want to introduce the TSOW, the Shape of Work community run by Springworks. The community is run on Slack and it's for all things HR. It's for the people ops, it's for the people of HR. What you can find in the community is help and support. We have around 3,000 plus HR leaders and people ops members, and more than people from 500 companies. So you can learn and you can network and all. Then we have job listings. As I mentioned, we have more than 500 companies in the community. So whenever they are looking for new talent, this is where they come and post. And so in case you're also looking for something new, you can definitely drop in and look into it. Then we have one-on-one introductions, a very good place to feel not feel isolated and feel a part of the community where you can connect with fellow HR folks, talk to them about things that about HR, you want to learn something, all those spaces. So that is a TSOW community, and you might have received the link to join in on the chat box. So please feel free to explore and look into more and join the Slack community. We are looking forward to have you there. And with that, we are jumping right in today's webinar. So before that, a small introduction. My name is Jijit. I run product marketing for EngageWith at Springworks. And let's, of course, introduce our speaker for today. We have Miranda Idris. She's a culture manager of Jump Factor Marketing. And she'll be our speaker for today, giving us her expertise on the topic. Hello, Miranda. Welcome to the webinar.
Hi.
Yeah, so we would love to know more about you, a slight intro for our attendees.
Hi, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Miranda. I'm a human resources professional with a bachelor's of HR. I've been working in the field for about 4 years now. I've worked in retail and corporate environments. I'm currently working at Jump Factor Marketing. We're an inbound digital marketing agency. We originated in Toronto, but we are now fully remote as a company, which is great. So what I do here more specifically is I handle talent acquisition and culture management. In terms of a little bit more just about my experience, I have about 7 years of team building and customer service experience. I manage HR related responsibilities. I strive to find the best talent and grow the Jump Factor team, while also engaging team members to develop unique activities and improve team spirit and emphasize the culture at Jump Factor. I guess a little bit more outside of HR and handling company culture, I also enjoy improving the body, mind, soul with running, yoga, Pilates, fitness, and overall nutrition as well. But I'm really excited today to talk to you guys a little bit more about encouraging a remote culture.
Thank you, Bernardo. We are also really glad to have you here. Thanks for coming, for joining in and taking the time. We are looking forward to having a great session. So here's the agenda for today. Here are the things that we would be discussing. So we'll be starting off with some basics like what is company culture and how its importance for remote and hybrid teams. Then we'll look into some of the unique challenges and opportunities that come in when the teams go hybrid and remote. And then we look into, of course, the benefits of building a culture for remote and hybrid teams. And then the strategies of building a culture for remote and hybrid teams. And finally, we'll end up with a tool to help you, set up and, build these strategies for remote and hybrid teams. So that's it. That is going to be our agenda. And these are the points we were going to cover. And so, yeah, let's jump right in. So Miranda, company culture, it is something that it's a very common term, whenever you're looking for a new job or everything. And especially when, more and more companies are moving to the remote and hybrid working style, culture has become a very much important thing to look into. Like, what are we going to be working for or working at? So we would love to know your thoughts on what is culture and what is the importance of it for remote and hybrid teams mainly. And how it is.
Definitely. I want to say that company culture is like a shared set of values, beliefs, and attitudes throughout the company. Company culture are the written but also unwritten rules that a company follows. So more specifically, their beliefs and values that help to drive decisions that are made for a company. For example, here at Jump Factor, our company culture comes from our core values. We follow things like team, integrity, tenacity, passion for learning, and also learning and being strategic. These 6 core values help us with making not only minor but major decisions as well. As a recruiter, I look for evidence of these values in people when we hire. Do these people seem eager to learn? Are they passionate about what they do? Do they have character traits that show things of integrity and tenacity? These core values are definitely embedded into all of us, and it's something that we look for when we hire. But just to kind of touch upon the second part of this, which is why it's important for remote and hybrid teams. It's easy for a company culture and values to be lost when we're all working from home and collaborating virtually. It's easy to not feel a sense of belonging without feeling like we're physically together. You don't have that natural bump into each other. There's no small talk. There's no personal connections. A strong company culture, and specifically in a remote team, should help people stay connected, foster communication, build trust. Plus, it also helps employees feel seen, even when they work remotely. So ultimately, when you have a remote team and you're trying to encourage and try to prioritize company culture, you want to encourage people having a sense of belonging and make sure it's important that each person can identify with the organization.
Right. I mean, I do agree to that. In fact, our company, Springworks 2, is a completely remote company. And I completely agree with the fact that you which you mentioned, a sense of belonging when you're working from home, which is very important. So, but at the same time, you also mentioned when you started off with the importance that there is a chance that company culture is lost when you're working from home and it's hybrid. So, which is one of the, I feel, which is one of the challenges. But what I would like to know more, or what we would like to know more, is what are some of the more of the challenges that come in, and also I think there are some opportunities too to do something new, right? When you're working from home and hybrid. So, what are those, and how do we look into that?
Definitely. So besides the personal impact that it has on people, there might be a sense of loneliness that can significantly damage companies and businesses and just the people in the businesses. I hear this all the time where people say that they feel like they're kind of stuck on an island somewhere because they haven't really talked to anyone for their entire 8-hour workday. And this can lead to a lack of identification with a company. People might feel like they don't identify with their company, and it's a big deal because people spend 8 hours a day working, and to do something for 8 hours a day while feeling lonely and feeling like you don't identify with your company or with your organization can definitely impact morale and definitely impact their performance. This comes from like a lack of face-to-face communication, not really getting to see people on a daily basis and getting to see your entire team on a daily basis. There is also a lack of access to information. I can't really turn to my left and ask someone, hey, like, what do I do with this? Or what is this process like? It's more of I have to kind of find the right person, and even finding the right person to ask, whether it's through Slack or Zoom or something like that, or another communication platform. It's a little bit more difficult because they're not right in front of you. All of this can lead to a lack of work ethic. So not feeling seen can lead to a lack of accountability. People don't feel accountable for their work. No one's really looking. No one really cares about my performance, so my performance will start to decline. And then also just a way that people have been using to combat this is sort of using a time tracking software or a productivity tracking software that can lead to like a lack of trust between the employer and the employee, which can also be a unique challenge that we've seen in remote working environments.
Right. Uh, yeah, definitely the tracking system.
Mhm.
I mean, it is something that is kind of like used in a lot of organizations too at this point of time too. I mean, I do know them, and but also at the same time, just an add-on question to this, the tracking software and how people feel lost and all. I mean, as you mentioned, there are times where you actually don't know whom to ask the question or the doubt that you have, right? So that is, of course, a challenge. But do these challenges also bring in opportunities for us to try out something new out there? Like, maybe bring in some new policies or something. Is it like, are these challenges like actual opportunities for us to, come out with something new? Do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some unique challenges here, but we also have some unique opportunities when it comes to working in a remote environment. Just generally speaking, I think you can definitely fix the issues that I've mentioned, and really make the most out of the pros of being a remote team. There are so many pros. For example, better work-life balance. There's no commuting. People get to be home with their families. People can pick up their kids from school on their lunch break, things like that. That really makes people's lives easier, which encourages work-life balance, which makes people love where they work and love what they do. People have more of a sense of freedom, flexible work schedules, flexible location in terms of where they get to work. People actually don't really have to book off time if they're going to visit a family member who is living abroad, because they can take their laptop and their work with them and really just work at that location instead of having to book all that time off. People make things work in that way. There's also direct benefits for the company, such as there's decreased infrastructure costs because we're not really working in a building anymore. There's increased productivity from all the employees. You have the ability to hire and retain top talent. That's a big one, because people like to work from home, and that's how you can really get someone to stay for your company if you want to leverage against other companies. And also gives companies the opportunity to hire internationally and attract talent from everywhere. that's a huge one, a huge benefit. And I think that if we can kind of decrease and make the cons of working remotely, I think if we can solve the issues that come along with it, identify them and solve them, and then also make the most of these pros, I think it can be really great.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So, Miranda, like, see, we've all, right before the remote and the hybrid thing came out, we were all with people, we were with people around. So there is always that culture that comes in a company that is in person to person. And as we move into the remote and hybrid space, of course, there, kind of should be some changes that you make into the culture and, a difference that you give to the remote and working team. So that is where we move into the next section, like what are the benefits of, building like a culture, especially for remote and hybrid teams, how does that impact?
Definitely. I think I definitely touched upon it a little bit here,
Hmm.
with the benefits of having a strong culture. Like I mentioned, I think if you're able to combat the cons and really work on these pros and encourage these things that come along with remote work, like work-life balance and increasing productivity and decreasing infrastructure costs and hiring internationally and retaining top talent, because working hybrid or working remotely are definitely things that people are looking for as a part of their overall compensation package and experience at your workplace. I think that if we can really pull these strengths towards our advantage, we can create something that's really great, as long as we're able to kind of avoid the cons here. There are definitely some cons, and there's definitely some strategies that we can go about to make sure that these things are not overpowering the pros.
Right. So, as you mentioned, the strategies, which is our next part. And I think this is where, the gold lies in, like moving to remote and hybrid, and everybody wants to make a different culture. But how do you do it is always a question, right? How do you make the best of it? How do you make the best strategy? So, what are some of the like really good strategies that, that would help build a really good culture?
Definitely. Some of the main things I want to focus on today has definitely revolves around communication, just because that seems to be the biggest thing that leads to the cons of working remotely, is that there's a lack of effective communication. So you really need to prioritize regular and transparent communication and focus on effective communication. This helps the whole company stay connected. So the first thing that I've noticed is chat rooms. Chat rooms are huge. It kind of helps to emulate that natural bumping into each other thing that happens at the office. Creating like an overall chat room where everyone is sort of, when everyone's in the chat room, it's encouraged that you guys casually talk. It's sort of like the water cooler where there's ongoing casual conversation where people can speak about things like something funny their kid did the other day, or like a photo of their kid at a talent show or something like that. It really helps to encourage that sense of belonging. Chat rooms is also really great because you can create one-on-one chats with someone if you just have a quick question, or you really want to ask them something, or create an opportunity for growth, or you can have group chats or team chats. Regardless of what it is, I think that it helps with, I think the instant messaging aspect helps to create that natural bump into each other aspect of things. The second thing I want to focus on is the levels of communication. There are four, I like to believe there's four levels of remote communication. In order of importance, the first one is video, then you have audio, chat, and email. Video is really great because I get to not only hear you, but I can see you, and it's the closest thing to an in-person chat. The next one would be audio, so I get to hear you and respond back to you in real time, that sort of thing. The next one being chat, so like the chat rooms, instant messaging, that sort of thing. And then the last one being email. Email is great, but as we know, it's slow. It needs to be formal, so it takes some time to type up, it takes some time to read, and it takes some time for the other person to respond. So definitely, if you can do a video call or send a Loom video, like send over a video of you speaking and showing your screen or something like that, I think that's definitely a way better way to communicate. So encouraging video chats and getting on video like we're doing right now. Also utilizing communication tools. So utilizing things like Slack, Zoom, Loom, Google Suite. things like that. You want to make sure that you're prioritizing using these different communication tools because they can really aid in your benefit and help to combat some of these challenges that we have with remote work. I think another really great thing would be in terms of using these communication tools, using them for meeting rhythm. So meeting routines, so having regular meetings with people and with teams and that sort of thing, and making sure that they always have a purpose and that they're done at a very set time. So having a strategy meeting weekly, or having a check-in meeting daily, or having a performance review every 6 months. So really making sure that you have a set meeting and a purpose for that meeting. I can't stress that enough. I think that's really, really important. Also, making sure that you're not going more than 2 weeks without not having a meeting. People shouldn't go ideally more than a week without having a meeting or seeing team members or getting feedback and creating goals and that sort of thing, and collectively working on issues and that sort of thing. These things should definitely happen very regularly. With these meetings comes effective collaboration. So using collaborative tools, things like spreadsheets, documents, using things in the cloud so that you guys can collaborate on things on real time. I'm sure we all know Google Docs is great. We can collaborate on documents and spreadsheets and PowerPoints and collaborate together in real time. Use the chat on the side and really get feedback along the way as we're doing things and as we're making changes. I think that's really important. And I think it's really important that remote teams understand that they need to use these things religiously. Also, using project management system softwares. Here at Jump Factor, we use Jira. In this platform, everything is documented. It's assigned to team members. You know who is doing what task, what stage they're in, if they have capacity to take on more tasks. I think it helps to get rid of unnecessary communication in terms of asking people like, hey, do you have time for this, or do you have room for this? I can see on their board and on their capacity that they don't have time or room for this. So things like that. It also makes sure that things are thoroughly communicated. So using these tools to your advantage to make sure things are thoroughly communicated, because it is something that people say doesn't happen in remote work environments. When it comes to these tools, like I mentioned, make sure that people are using it religiously, flag when it's not being used, and don't make it a habit to stray off, because those things can happen, and then it can lead to inefficiencies throughout the company, and then like it can contribute to poor communication style. Make sure everyone's trained on it and it's second nature. We also want to encourage the implementing certain processes and systems so that everyone knows what steps are taken in different processes to avoid unnecessary communication, again, which would lead to a lack of productivity and lack of communication. For example, in recruitment, there are very thorough processes that are followed, and everyone sort of knows what's going on and knows who's in what stage and that sort of thing. We have checklists, we have SOPs, we have processes to make sure that things aren't missed. A lot of times, not only in recruitment, but in many processes, the same process is done like 100 times. It's very easy to miss little things here and there, and just kind of making sure that they're not missed is using these online softwares and systems. And also the last point of mine about some strategies here is to really focus on work hours, hours of communication. Working internationally, people are in different time zones, so we still want to have somewhat of flexible work hours to encourage that work-life balance, and that is something really great that comes with working remotely and having a remote team. But we also want to be able to promote consistency so that communication can happen at regular times. So making sure that people are available during certain work hours, making sure meetings are not missed, still being able to communicate things in real time, and even there are simple solutions for this. So finding time zone hotspots where time zones all overlap, and that sort of thing. So just about making sure that time zones don't really get in the way.
Right. So, I mean, as I said in the beginning before we started the segment, this is where the gold lies, and that is why a lot of our attendees are also very involved. We have a few questions. So Victoria has this question like, as a remote worker, what can we do from our side to prevent from feeling alone or distance from your team?
So just so I understand the question correctly, is this so that HR doesn't feel alone and distance from the team?
No, what can we do from our side, from our side to prevent being feel like as an individual, like how do we not feel distanced or alone from your team, especially when you're working, as you said, isolation can be one of the reasons that
Mhm.
can really happen when you're working from home, where there are not people around and you find difficulties to ask questions to the right people and all. So what can be done?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think it definitely shows a different side of things because it takes, I hate to say this, but it takes two to tango.
Hmm.
So companies can implement these different things to kind of make sure that people don't feel isolated, like implementing a chat room, like making sure that Slack and Zoom and things are set in place and they're encouraged, but also making sure that you take advantage of it and you utilize these tools and maybe reach out to team members in Slack chats. If your company has any sort of events, making sure to attend them and to attend them actively. Um, joining different meetings and contributing value to those meetings, making sure that your voice is heard by being loud and saying these things, giving feedback where you can, and that sort of thing. And sometimes when companies are struggling with implementing these different things for the company, I think it's important to know that your voice is heard and that your voice is important. So definitely give your feedback to companies or to your company in terms of um, if you feel like your voice isn't being heard, if that makes sense.
Right.
Mm.
And we have one more, which is regarding one of the points which you mentioned, which is regular meetings, right?
Mhm.
So, there are times where you must have also noticed sometimes, we have an agenda for a meeting, but sometimes you just wave off from the agenda, There are times that happen. So the next question is also regarding that, like how can you enhance culture within meetings while sticking to an agenda and ensuring objectives are being met for a meeting?
Yeah, I think setting some time throughout the meeting where you can kind of check in with each other. So we have these regular meetings here at Jump Factor where in the beginning of the meeting we ask each other how we're feeling, or we say what's our grateful for today, or what's our win for the day. So kind of starting off the meeting with checking in with each other and allowing for sort of like a 6-minute buffer time where we can kind of have a little bit of banter, check in with each other, give a little bit of a rating, give a specific example of what a win is or what I'm grateful for today, and then go ahead and dive into the objective so that you get that out of the way before diving into the nitty gritties.
Makes sense. Right. Also, we had run a poll, we just wanted to know like if any of our, what are the challenges that our attendees are facing, in the remote and hybrid work setup. So we would definitely like want to know your thoughts on how you could solve each of these. So if you see that majority of the people have voted that lack of team bonding and camaraderie is one of the
Mhm.
challenges that they're facing. So how do you think this can be solved the best way?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, just to kind of relate things back to Jump Factor, we conduct something that I think really helps with the team bonding, is we conduct these company-wide events twice per quarter. They're sort of these remote at-home, lighthearted icebreaker type games. So we start off with some icebreakers. We even do some more thorough get to know me games. Sometimes we put people in breakout rooms and we play 21 questions. And these 21 questions are not just high level, but they get pretty personal. Obviously, we give people options in terms of um, like so that they don't feel comfortable asking or answering more personal questions within a breakout room, but the option's definitely there. And then each event has a theme. So sometimes we focus on people's cultural background. So we focus on, for Valentine's Day we did like a love event, so we really focused on like love and care from family members and friends and that sort of thing. And we asked each other questions that were revolved around that stuff. During the holidays we focused on gift giving, stuff like that. So I think kind of just doing these regular events where you can talk about things that are not related to work and play these icebreaker games that you do play in person and that you have probably played in school and that sort of thing. I think that's a really great way to encourage team bonding.
Right. And The next one, I think it is slower employee feedback loops
Hmm.
and reduced employee productivity. Like, I think employee productivity is one of something that, falls off when you're in a remote and hybrid. So how do you think this can be solved better?
I'm going to assume that slower employee feedback loops includes feedback from both management and from coworkers. I think encouraging peer-to-peer feedback um, and encouraging obviously feedback from management. So feedback from management usually happens in a more formal setting, performance reviews. So definitely management side of things to encourage having regular performance reviews, attending these, and giving your thorough, undivided attention during these meetings. I think that's totally important. But they tend to not happen as frequently. So encouraging peer-to-peer feedback regularly by simply using a platform. For example, I'm sure as you guys know, this platform is EngageWith. We use EngageWith. It's a really great platform to get shout outs and kudos from different team members so that peers can recognize each other for their efforts. It also gives you an advantage to be able to encourage like make an example out of someone. Like someone does something really great, they get acknowledged for it, the whole team can see it. It's kind of encouraging that sort of behavior throughout the rest of the company. And peer-to-peer feedback happens way more frequently and can still be just as effective to encourage performance.
Right, right. I mean, the fact that you mentioned engage with this kind of, really making us happy because we as a company are also, we are looking forward to building something like that for our community and for our people. And it's something that felt nice. And the last one, it's mentioned reduced employee morale, which is I think one of the most important things, especially when you have to. I mean, morale is something that would affect a lot of things like productivity and your willingness to talk to people, your peers that you're working with, like anything that you mentioned, right? Peer-to-peer feedback, all of it. Once your morale is down, you don't feel like doing all of it. You just want to isolate. So how do you solve for the reduced employee morale?
Definitely. I think there's a lot of things that you can do to help with this. And I think a lot of the strategies that I mentioned are very valuable. But I think having really strong, effective communication so that accountability is always there. It's important that people feel seen. If they don't feel seen, I think that's like a major hit to employee morale. Making sure that employees not only feel seen, but they feel like they're cared for. Like I care about the employee's performance. And once you feel like you need management and your peers to care about your performance in order for you to care about your own performance for an extended period of time. I think once a long period of time goes where you're not getting feedback or you're not being helped with creating clear goals and objectives and that sort of thing, or collaborating with your team or feeling seen or heard or cared about, I think that's where employee morale can start to decrease. But just making sure that all of those things are still true in a remote working environment is really, really important.
So it is kind of like, a 50-50 effort, right? Where you yourself also are using what is being given and putting in effort to make sure everything is in place. Like you don't isolate yourself, but rather you go forward and use the facilities and use whatever is provided so that you can be heard and you don't isolate. If
Definitely. Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, it takes two to tango. I think it also takes the employees' effort to kind of make sure they're utilizing everything that's provided by the company,
right,
and making sure that they don't fall off.
right, right, right. So with that, I think we are to the next part. That is as we mentioned, like there are challenges, right? You did mention a lot, like isolation and all these, which we've been seeing like all this while as we are coming in. Not being heard and not being able to understand who we have to talk to and all of it. How do we overcome these challenges? It is, overcome these challenges in the most efficient way, I would say. Like, what are the most efficient means like we could overcome these challenges?
Yeah. I guess besides using different forms of communication and really focusing on those four forms of communication: video, audio, chat, and email, and utilizing the most effective kinds and encouraging throughout the company and using all these different tools and platforms and systems to overcome communication. There's also a few other things. So for example, I think providing opportunity for team members to collaborate and work together is another way to help make people people feel seen and heard. So having regular meetings, doing training, allowing for shadowing opportunities, asking to learn more about specific processes or a topic. I think this not only helps to encourage communication and feeling seen, but it simultaneously promotes growth, which will obviously benefit everyone within the company. And it will also make sure that people are held accountable within remote work. Also setting clear goals and objectives. So openly communicate and create goals so that people know what they're working towards. It's important to make sure that goals are tangible and realistic, and helping employees with this can ensure their success. It also makes them feel like they're being invested in. It's important that goals are clear, but there's also sub goals. So like helping the employee lay them out and letting them know that when they reach the set amount of goals, X can happen. I think that's a really great way to kind of set a goal and to kind of give people a reason to work towards it. And also encourage having open communication with your employer about your career goals, and encourage asking for constructive feedback so that employees are open to receiving this constructive feedback so that they're able to work towards these goals and objectives. Another way to kind of increase, to overcome some of these challenges would be to trust team members to work independently. So that means everything from not just working independently, but teamwork, collaboration, and individual employee work. Giving employees a sense of trust from the employers can allow for better teamwork and collaboration, high morale, less stress, increased productivity. People can work without feeling like they're being watched over their back. Dealing with situations where coworkers might not trust other colleagues. So untrustworthy colleagues, this can cause staff to gossip or not want to cooperate with their staff. And then also we want to also encourage a lack of micromanaging. This also helps to give employees a voice, and also leading by example. So hearing the truth from management will lead to trust from management, and then that will lead to employees trusting management, and then trusting that they're able to sort of give their feedback and make sure that the employee still has a voice. We don't want people to fear management and what their deeper intentions might be with certain decisions and certain aspects of change throughout the organization.
Right.
And we also want to make sure that with this, like I mentioned, we're encouraging open and honest feedback from the employees, whether it comes from regular communication, whether it comes from these regular meetings, or whether it comes from anonymous surveys. Another thing that EngageWith is great for is conducting anonymous, but also not anonymous, but anonymous surveys where we can ask for feedback about certain things, and then that employees will know that we're actually going to take this feedback and do something with it.
Right. We do have a question from one of our attendees, and it says, how can we resolve for the following issues? And there are three. The first one is risk of overworking. The second one is distractions at home, and the third one is risk of productivity. How do we solve for this?
So risk of overworking, that's an interesting one because there are so many pros to working from home. But we can avoid overworking. So for example, I think one of the main things that I noticed when I feel a little bit overwhelmed at work is chat overload, email overload, people just messaging left, right, and center. So just avoiding this, it can get annoying. It's not productive, it's overwhelming, and it doesn't promote a work-life balance, which is something that we definitely try to do. So kind of implementing things like quiet hours. So we have this here at Jump Factor where it's sort of like a block in the calendar every day. It's at a different time every day, and it's either about an hour to 2 hours. It's different every day, and it's quiet hours. So that's when we know that don't send any messages in Slack. People are being productive during these hours. There's usually not meetings going on around this time. And it's sort of, quiet hours. You implementing, there's not only things from the company that you can do to avoid this, because obviously I can't get everyone to not message me. Turn off your notifications. Feel okay to kind of turn off the notifications for about 30 minutes to an hour to really deep focus into a task and get it done while not feeling overwhelmed. But companies can still do things like encourage time off, encourage flexible schedules, make sure and making sure that people don't regret it when they do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I understand that that this can sometimes happen where people take vacation and when they come back, they either have a pile of work or they have a little bit of, they might feel like they're going to get backlash from their colleagues or management for taking time off. So I think sort of breaking that and encouraging time off, and when they come back, really like asking them like, how was the vacation? And I'm really happy that you're rested and ready to get back to work. This is really great. And also leading by example. I think I know it's hard to book time off when you feel like all of your managers are working really hard and they're glued to the computer and they never want to step away from the computer. And they keep working. So definitely leading by example. Management should also take time off so that they can normalize it even more within the company.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, a lot of things. In fact, something that I felt as you were speaking, a lot of like, in fact, not majority, I would say all of the things, that kind of which you mentioned are part of the organization that we are at just Frameworks. And, it feels really glad that, we are running in the right track. We are on the remote space. So yeah, with that, we like unofficially come to the end of the webinar because our next segment is for our attendees specially. It's we are going to be introducing a tool for them to, actually build the strong company culture that we've spoken till this time. So before that, Miranda, thank you so much for coming in. I mean, we are really glad to have you. We would love to hear your thoughts on how did you feel and how did you feel giving us the expertise and all of it.
I think this was really great. I love kind of touching upon this because this is definitely something I'm passionate about. I started working for Jump Factor when we were in the transition to becoming a remote work from home environment. So I feel like just being able to implement certain changes and just see the way things got changed and make changes accordingly was a great learning experience. So I'd love to be able to share this kind of stuff. I feel like there's so much more to dive into, but this has been great. The questions have been great. And very well thought out and thorough. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's really glad to hear. I mean, yeah, thank you so much for coming in, for dropping in. And I'm pretty sure, like you said, there are a lot of people who joined in here were actually looking for these points, strategies and how to overcome these challenges. And that is why we've had questions from our attendees. And you also answered them really patiently. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, so with that, we will be moving on to the final session of this webinar. And that is going to be the tool that we're going to be talking about for building this. And my colleague here, Nisarg, would be taking this up. Hi, Nisarg, would you like to take this up?
Yes. Awesome. Let me see if everyone can see me. All right. I am being spotlighted. Let me share my screen real quick. All right, you're here. Awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining in. Kind of the topic for today's webinar was how do you build culture when you are remote and hybrid. We had a similar problem. In 2020, we went full remote at Springworks. And we started facing some challenges, and that's when we thought, since we're an HR tech company, let's build something that makes people operations and HR lives easier. And that's why we started building EngageWith. EngageWith is exactly what you think it is, an employee engagement tool. We do this, with rewards and recognition, pulse surveys, everything that we talked about in the webinar. We do it within EngageWith. One of the biggest challenges we found while building a rewards and recognition tool is that there is a lot of friction when it comes to recognizing your peers, right? If your coworker helped you out, you want to send that recognition right away. In office, you would just go to them, say them thank you, go out for lunch or something like that. How do you do the same thing when you are remote? So that's why we built EngageWith to solve for this, a frictionless way of recognizing your peers and even top-down recognition. So EngageWith as an app, it integrates directly into your Slack workspace or your Microsoft Team workspace, and makes it easy to recognize. So I'll show you a quick demo of how it works. EngageWith will be on your Slack workspace once you install it. Super simple to send out a recognition. All you have to do is find this recognize someone button, click on it. As soon as you do that, it will ask you to select a type of recognition. So you can customize all of these things, as an admin on the back end. You can select who you want to send this recognition to. So let's say I'll send recognition to Jijit. And then I write a reason why am I recognizing him. So I'll say, thanks for conducting the webinar today. It was very informative, or something like this, right? Something tangible, something you want to recognize your coworkers for. You can also add your company values to this. So let's say I'll say own your work. It is the company value. You can add your own company values over here, and I hit submit. This typically takes less than 30 seconds, and since this is inside your Slack, you don't even need to switch contexts to go somewhere else and then send out the recognition. This is what the recognition looks like. Hey Jijit, congratulations, you received a kudos from Nisarg. You add a message, the company value is highlighted. We also add a fun GIF to it. And then people come in here, since this is on Slack, again, everybody can see these types of recognition going out. You can see an entire feed of recognitions. And other coworkers can come in, they can add on to the same recognition, leave reactions, add comments. This really helps in building the team culture of appreciation and recognition amongst your team. And the best part is that everything is on Slack. And then we don't stop here. We also believe that we need to complete the loop on recognition. So how we do that is every time you send a recognition, you send some points along with it, and those points can be converted into gift cards. So employees have access to an entire dashboard where they're able to come in here. They can see how many, what their current balance is, and then they'll be able to redeem gift cards directly from here. We have more than 1,000 gift cards across different countries, and yeah, they can come in here and redeem it. So rewards and recognition is one piece. As an admin, you will have access to analytics where you'll be able to see how each department is functioning, like what values are being represented, how each manager's engagement rate is, what each department's engagement rate is. We can go into the detail of this later. This is self-serve. You can sign up on this right away. It's free of cost, 30 days free trial. You'll get access to, and then you can check this out. We also have celebrations. What we do here is you can automate your employees' birthdays and work anniversaries, and then also manage gifts for their birthdays and work anniversaries from EngageWith. We have awards. Let's say you do once a quarter or once a month type of a monthly award, employee of the month or best performer of the month type of an award. You can again use EngageWith to automate the recognition message that will go out, as well as assign a gift value to these awards. So our goal for building this was to convey the same feeling that employees get when they get recognized in office, but for remote and hybrid companies, right? So that was on the rewards and recognition piece. Another is pulse surveys. So what we also do is you can use EngageWith to send out ENPS surveys to your employees to get feedback from employees on what they think are the good things about the company, what they think are the bad things about the company, and get their critical feedback on what is helping, what is not. So ENPS survey that gives you a score of ranging between -100 to 100. You can benchmark it with other companies in the same industry as yours. And once you run the ENPS survey, we also have detailed pulse surveys that you can run with bunch of templates. You can run each survey for weeks, and you can also set cadence. So let's say you would want to run an organizational perception survey, let's say every quarter, which will give you a lot of feedback on what your employees think about the organization. And we have all of these templates that they can use for pulse surveys. Yeah. And the best part about the pulse surveys on EngageWith is the fact that everything happens on Slack, again, Slack and Microsoft Teams. So employees don't have to leave or click on a link on an email, go to a different page and enter very lengthy surveys. They'll just get a message on Slack. They reply with their answer, and then that gets saved. So that is the advantage of using pulse surveys on EngageWith. Yeah, this was very quick, a short demo on EngageWith. Would love to either get some feedback or let me know if you would like to have a detailed demo of EngageWith, where we can give you a more personalized demo on how it would work specifically for your organization. So thanks, Jijit.
Right. Thanks, Nisarg. All right, guys, with that, we have come to the end of our webinar. And I hope you guys had a look into EngageWith, that you guys have seen the demo. And also, we have put in links in the chat box if you would like to, book a personalized demo for EngageWith. Feel free to explore and book us on the link, and we'll be right there with. So once again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining in, and yeah, have a nice day. Thank you.